So, what if the secret to completely transforming your life wasn't some huge heroic effort? What if it was actually a series of changes so tiny, they're almost invisible? That's the revolutionary idea behind James Clear's Atomic Habits. Okay, let's dive into this and really unpack how these tiny changes can lead to some truly remarkable results.
You know, the story behind this whole book doesn't start in some research lab or a university classroom. It starts with a moment of just shocking violence. A classmate took a full swing with a baseball bat. It slipped out of his hands, and it flew directly into James Clear's face.
And the collision it was catastrophic. The bat literally crushed his nose into a U shape, it caused multiple fractures in his skull, and it shattered both of his eye sockets.
And it gets worse. Within minutes, his brain started swelling uncontrollably. He started having seizures, he stopped breathing entirely, and to save his life, doctors had no other choice but to put him in a medically induced coma. We're not just talking about an injury here. This was literally a life-or-death crisis.
But here's the thing. His recovery, and really the entire philosophy of this book, it wasn't born from one of those dramatic, movie-like moments of inspiration. Nope. It came from something much smaller, much quieter. It all began with a series of tiny, almost unnoticeable steps, day after day after day. So as he's rebuilding his life and trying to get his athletic career back on track in college, Clear stumbles upon this incredible idea, the first core principle of Atomic Habits, the surprising, almost magical power of making these tiny, consistent 1% improvements. All right, take a look at this graph. The math behind this is actually super simple, but it is so powerful. See, we tend to dismiss small changes, right? That little 1% improvement, it doesn't feel like it makes a difference today or tomorrow. But look at what happens over a longer period. That upward curve, that shows how your habits multiply. They compound.
And this is where it gets a little crazy. If you get just 1% better at something each day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. No way. You'll be nearly 38 times better by the time you're done. And the flip side is true too. A 1% decline every day brings you almost all the way down to zero. Small habits are really just the compound interest of self-improvement.
Okay, but that begs the question, right? If the logic is so simple and the results are so dramatic, why is it so hard to stick with good habits? Why do we go for a run for a week, see no change on the scale, and then just quit?
And this diagram, right here, this explains everything. See that top line? That's what we think is going to happen. This nice, straight, linear path to our goals. But that bottom line, that's what actually happens. For a long time, it feels like nothing is changing at all. Clear calls this gap the valley of disappointment. And this is the danger zone. It's where most people give up because they don't realize that all their hard work is happening underground, building this incredible foundation for a huge breakthrough later on. Think about it like this. Imagine a stonecutter hammering away at a huge rock, maybe 100 times, and not a single crack appears. But then, on the 101st blow, the whole thing splits in two. Now, was it that last hit that did it? Of course not. It was the accumulation of all the pressure, all the blows that came before it. Your habits work exactly the same way. And that idea leads us right into the next huge mental shift he talks about. To break through that frustrating plateau, we have to stop obsessing over goals and start focusing on building systems. So what's the actual difference here?
Well, the distinction sounds simple, but this is a really big deal. A goal, that's the result you want. You want to win a championship, you want to write a book. A system, that's the collection of daily habits and processes that are actually going to get you there. The recruiting, the practice drills, the daily writing schedule.
I mean, think about it. Winners and losers in pretty much any field often have the exact same goals. Every Olympian wants to win a gold medal, right? The goal isn't what separates them. What makes the difference is their commitment to a system of continuous, small improvements, day in and day out. Goals are for a moment in time, but systems are for a lifetime. But here's the thing, even the most perfect system in the world can fall apart if it's fighting against the deepest layer of our behavior. And this, for me, might be the most powerful idea in the entire book. True, lasting change isn't about what you do, it's about who you believe you are.
See, change really happens on 3 different levels. On the outside, you've got outcomes. That's what you get. The middle layer is your processes. That's what you do. But the core, the deepest layer, that's your identity. It's what you believe about yourself. Now, here's where we all go wrong. Most of us try to change from the outside in. We focus on the outcome we want, and we try to force the process. Clear says the most effective change happens from the inside out. You have to start with who you want to become.
This example with smoking just nails it. When someone offers you a cigarette, if you say, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit," you're still holding on to the identity of a smoker who is just fighting an urge. But if you say, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker," you are signaling a fundamental shift. See the difference? The behavior isn't a struggle anymore, it's just an affirmation of who you are now. The goal isn't just to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. All right, so let's tie all of this together. When you combine the power of those 1% gains, the intense focus on systems instead of goals, and this fundamental shift in identity, you arrive at the central mantra of this entire philosophy.
And this quote right here, this is the ultimate takeaway. We don't just magically rise to meet our ambitions on sheer willpower. It doesn't work that way. In moments of stress or pressure or just plain old fatigue, we fall back to our baseline, our automatic, ingrained systems. So the real question you have to ask yourself isn't how high are my goals? It's how solid are the daily systems I've built to support them? Because at the end of the day, those systems are what will ultimately determine who you become.